So when I was growing up, I really loved commercials. I loved those little catchy jingles and all the little taglines. They're fun, they're easy to remember. I still remember 2 all-beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Anybody else remember that? That was like Burger King 1983, and I didn't like Burger King. What? McDonald's? Oh my gosh, see? See how good that advertising was? I don't even remember what it was for, but I remember that jingle. Jingles are memorable because they're fun, but sometimes commercials are memorable because they're irritating. I also remember a commercial for a particular televangelist at this time, don't remember who, but he had chosen a retired NFL football player to sell his personally signed and blessed Bibles. And I will never forget that at the end of this commercial, this retired athlete would look you right in the eye and say, for just $19.95, you too can have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. You can't make that up. Sometimes Christianity today feels a little bit like we are used car salesmen trying to sell Jesus. It's like we think that somehow we can have all the blessings we want in this life and eternity full of bliss with 0 money down, low monthly payments, and no commitment at all. We sell prayer like it's a 5-minute formula for personal success and blessing. We sell faith in Jesus like it's all about getting earthly blessings instead of spiritual insight. You know, it makes me wonder if we've really read the gospel at all. I mean, don't get me wrong, grace is free. Grace and love is a free gift. It is unconditional. It is eternal. There is nothing we can do to make God love us more. We cannot earn it. We don't have to pay for it. But if we want to know Jesus, if we want to learn from Jesus, if we want to try to love like Jesus, if we want to take on this incredible privilege he's given us of sharing in the transformation of the world with his mercy and grace, something more is required of us. Christianity, as it turns out, is really not about self-improvement and self-enhancement. It's a path of self-sacrifice. And it's really hard to sell to the crowds, which is why I think we get this story that's found in the Gospel of Luke and the Gospel of Matthew. And Jesus has been on this teaching, healing, miracle tour of Galilee, right? He's been doing all sorts of things for the crowds, and they're following him because they want more of all of this goodness that he has to offer. And I read this story and I think maybe Jesus was just tired, like us. Maybe he wanted the crowds to go away, because I can almost see him turning on his fans and saying, really? Really? You think you have what it takes to follow me? You think that you've heard the infomercial, and in a 5-minute prayer, you can get everything you want out of me? Let me tell you what is actually required for people who want to follow me. First, give up all of your attachments. Give up everything you love, and then come follow me. He actually says, whoever hates their mother and father, their wife and children, whoever doesn't do all of that, and sisters and brothers, if you don't hate your entire family, you can't be my disciple. So much for those family values we're supposed to be espousing. What does he mean? Well, the word itself doesn't convey that anger and hostility that we associate with hate, but it does convey like ultimate allegiance, commitment, priority. I think he means hate kind of like if you really love the Giants, you gotta hate the Dodgers. If you really love the Ohio State Buckeyes, you gotta hate the Michigan Wolverines. You have to focus on your own and winning for your own. Jesus is saying, you've got to put God before all the other people that you love. I don't know how to do that, but it doesn't even matter because what comes next is even worse. He says, and by the way, don't love your life. The people that follow me are going to lose it. Here's what I expect. I expect you to pick up that crossbeam and carry it to the site of your execution. You ready? Remember, it wasn't a metaphor. It was real. They saw it all the time. And then he says the worst thing of all. And by the way, you don't even get any earthly possessions. Give them all up and give them to people who really need them. Commitment, self-sacrifice, and giving so generously to others that we wonder where our next meal is coming from. Give me a break. Can't you see the crowds just walking away? It's not exactly a crowd pleaser, is it? But we stay here in the 21st century because we've heard it all so many times that we've figured out ways to domesticate it. We've figured out ways to really lose how radical it is. We've figured out ways to pretend that we can actually do it and do it well, right? Commitment to put God before family. Oh, I got that. Ching, ching. I pray for the first 5 minutes of every day before I even make my coffee. So clearly, I put God first. Giving up my life? Well, as we learned last week, we're Methodists. We don't need to take it literally. So he doesn't mean literally. He means giving up the small version of me that I don't really like so much anyway, and he's going to restore a bigger, more beautiful, fabulous self. Yay. Check, check. Got that. Possessions? Giving of my money to others? Well, I've got that all mapped out. I have a 50-year progressive tithing plan at which by the end, I will be giving a full 10%. It begins after my student debt is paid off, after the mortgage is paid off, and after all the kids have gone through college. See, Jesus, I am willing, I'm just not gonna live long enough to actually do it. Check, check. We can so easily convince ourselves that we are able to bear this cost that he's asking, that we can actually be that wise builder that plans it all out, that careful king who can march into any battle. But see, that's actually the part that I can't domesticate. Those two rather weird parables that Luke just seems to insert in the middle of the story Jesus is telling. What exactly is Jesus talking about when he says, which of you, intending to build a tower, doesn't map it all out on a Gantt chart well in advance so you know every single thing you're going to do in every hour and every day, draw up all the plans, pay for all the materials, pass the design review process, set aside at least 50% contingency for all those change orders that you know are going to come. Oh yeah, and bribe somebody in the permitting office before you even start. Which of you doesn't do all that before you start a project? I think the trustees are going, I should have read this passage before we started on the roof because we wouldn't have started, right? We don't do that. We don't do that. And which of you, as a leader, doesn't think through every single risk-reward scenario and know exactly that you're gonna win before you ever make a move? Which of you doesn't do that? None of us do that. None of us do what he's asking. We can't. We cannot predict all of the contingencies of life, all of the struggles, all of the things that will not go as planned and as expected, because we don't know the future. And frankly, even if we could accurately count the cost for every long-term investment, we wouldn't, because we'd never do anything. If you could count every single thing that was gonna go wrong in your marriage before you walked down the aisle, would you do it? No. Children, if you had to add up all the time and energy and expense before you ever started, would you do it? Probably not. If you really knew how much would be demanded to get that PhD or that MD or to change jobs or to do any other long-term massive investment in life, we wouldn't do it. Because the only way we take those kind of huge steps is by romanticizing them. We do it by saying it's all going to be great. None of those hard things are going to happen to us because we've got it all figured out. We don't count the cost. We can't. Because we're human. We're limited. We can't count the cost of the daily struggles in our own lives, let alone really count the cost of what it means to follow Jesus and build the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven. We have no idea how to measure the struggle, the resistance, and all that will be required. We don't know how to do it. And so when I hear Jesus ask all of this, all of these demands, all I can do is throw up my hands and say, I can't do it. You do it. You do it, Jesus, because I don't know how. I don't know the way. I can't do what you're asking of me. I surrender. And isn't that the first step? We don't know. We don't know what's going to be required. We don't know how. We don't know the way. But he does. So I think Jesus is the one who's building the tower. Jesus is the one who's going to battle. He is the one who knows how to build the kingdom, and he goes ahead of us. We just have to keep our eyes on him, trust him, do what we need to do in the day-to-day, through the ups and the downs, the moments that feel like we are really following so faithfully and it is really good, and the moments that feel like we are losing and it's awful and it hurts like heck. In it all, through it all, he's with us. And even in those difficult moments, maybe especially in those difficult moments, he's expanding our capacity to do hard things, to love even when it's difficult. And that is a good process. It's not an easy one, but it's a good one. The call of Jesus is a call of surrender. And yes, sacrifice. And I think we only have the ability to do it day by day and moment by moment, not by counting the cost, but by trusting that God is with us in the moment. And we do it. In that way, we do it very well. We do it when we choose forgiveness instead of holding on to resentment or a desire to retaliate. We do it when we choose to listen instead of proving our point one more time with a little bit more anger this time. We do it when we choose to maybe get that thing that's not quite as expensive and maybe not as good, because we are committed to helping the lost and the least. We do it with our time, when we sing in the choir, when we show up to worship, when we pack a meal with Rise Against Hunger, instead of watching yet another show on Netflix. It doesn't really do much for us anyway. These are the kind of small sacrifices. They're not big denials, big self-denials, but they add up over time as we follow in the right direction. You know, some of us have been taught that self-sacrifice means giving up our voice, giving up the truth of who we are because we have to defer to others all the time. Or maybe we've been taught that it means that if we have unmet needs, it's just how it is. We're not allowed to ask for our needs to be met because we have to be always meeting other people's needs. That's wrong. A small life does not glorify God. In fact, I think what Jesus is really trying to say here is that there is an essence of us, the deepest truth of ourselves that is absolutely needed in building the kingdom of God on earth. But we get to it by whittling away all these false selves that need to be so affirmed by others and by earthly rewards. And that process feels like loss to us sometimes. But in the end, we know who we are. We know what our life is about, and we're more able to offer it up to others. I know sometimes we get tired in doing that. I mean, my back was turned, but did everybody's hand go up when Corey asked if we have been a little tired this week? It's exhausting. It's exhausting. And especially now, we look at the world and it just seems like we're mean. And we're never gonna not be mean. We're mean and sometimes hateful, and there's violence, and there's fear, and it seems harder and harder to be committed to love and mercy and justice. And we wonder all the time, are we doing enough? Are we doing enough? No, we have to keep doing what we're doing. But we also have to remember that God is with us. This is God's kingdom. We're not in control of it, and we don't know how and when it will come. We can lean into the promise that God can do some things without our help. I mean, we get to help, but God is present, doing things we don't always see and don't always understand. And the gift of the resurrection is this promise that love is the way. Love really does win. It is the way to new life. Just because we can't see the way through, it doesn't mean that God is blind and doesn't know where we're going. We just have to follow. So, if Jesus was actually a used car salesman, or maybe a budding politician, his call to self-sacrifice and self-denial really wouldn't make much sense at all. But we know he's none of those things. He really is asking us to give up some of the things that we can't hold on to anyway in order to find something else that won't be taken away. He's asking us to lay down our small selves and join in something so much bigger. This process of transforming our souls and the world into something that really looks like love. Bible scholar N.T. Wright put it like this. He said, Imagine that Jesus is climbing a mountain, and he is the leader of this mountain climbing expedition. He's calling for volunteers. And the task before the team of climbers is very risky. They're going to go into this isolated village to deliver food to people that are starving. The dangers are real, the leader says. We might not make it back alive, but people are starving. So somebody has to do it. Are you with me? Are you with me? That's what he's really asking of us. Are you with me when it's joyful, when it's easy, when you are receiving the blessings? Are you with me when it just feels like losing? Are you with me when you're struggling to provide a world of flourishing for others, a world where we aren't living in fear? Are we with him? That's the question.